Good morning, everyone. This is Katie Novotny calling from Premier Marketing. I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. I am super excited about today's topic. Long-term care is often a question that we hear inquiries about, and then we are also hearing the long-term care solutions. There's so many confusions on the different options that the client may have, what the actual product provides, and what we're going to handle today is people that actually need it. What are the questions that we should look at? Do we have clients that maybe think that they can fund their own long-term care? So I think that self-funding is often something that we run into, and I am really excited to have Larry Moore here from Lincoln Financial to provide some insight on this topic. Are you ready to take it away, Larry?
I am ready.
Alrighty. One thing before you start, if anyone has questions as we're going, if you would mind typing them into the question section. If it is something that we can handle right away, we will do, and if not, we will do it at the end of the presentation. So at that, Larry, the floor is all yours.
Great, thank you, Katie. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. As the topic says, beyond self-funding, our main objective is to focus just on this issue, and we're going to keep it at right about 15 minutes because we know you guys are getting bombarded by webinars, and our goal is to respect your time. So it's a topic that's, while simple in one regard, becomes complicated in another regard because what you're dealing with is a mindset from your client who's of the opinion that they have the ability to fund this on their own. Now the question is, they may be able to, or they may not. The question is, what is the most appropriate? Hang on a second, folks. I had to jump there. What is the most appropriate approach to this? So what we're going to talk about today is the fact that you have clients who may believe that self-insuring may be the better option. And what we're going to contrast and compare this morning is how you would articulate the financial outcomes and consequences of self-funding versus leveraging tax-free dollars in an asset-based or, quite frankly, a traditional long-term care insurance planning strategy. I use MoneyGuard I say MoneyGuard here only because I'm going to share with you some examples of a tool that we have that parlays with our software that gives you the ability to demonstrate what the numbers look like. Ultimately, what we're talking about, folks, is an efficiency of capital story. In other words, using leverage from insurance that happens to have tax advantage capabilities along with it. So what you're going to see me do is back out of this PowerPoint presentation and go right into some numbers, because that's ultimately where the rubber meets the road. And one of the things I implore people to think about when they have a client of this mindset, don't argue with them. In their minds, they certainly may have the wherewithal to do this. Do they need insurance? They don't. But do they like paying more in taxes? First question. Do they enjoy that? And secondly, they may have a very well-structured, well-organized portfolio with a very strategic purpose behind it. Why would they want to, in an unplanned fashion, have to deconstruct that to fund long-term care at a moment's notice? The whole idea here with long-term care planning is to protect that portfolio and maximize the planning behind its construction so it fulfills the obligations based on what the client's desires are, right? So that's really what we're talking about. And what we're going to show you here is, I don't care how smart of an investment advisor someone might be, it's hard to outrun the power of leverage of insurance and also the safety and security behind that. So I'm going to back out of this real quick and just jump right into some numbers to give you an idea of what we're talking about. I'm going to share with you an idea of a 55-year-old married male. That's the numbers that we're looking at with a 5-year concept. You'll notice I have highlighted two big numbers, $142,430. That's the aggregate premium that would be paid over 10 years. Yes, I'm using a flex pay option here for a number of reasons. I'm finding more and more as our market becomes younger, right? The traditional MoneyGuard market, for instance, or the traditional asset-based market was an older, more well-heeled financially, that type of a client who made a single premium payment, took care of it, and it's one and done and forever taken care of. In the situation of a pre-retiree, it's different. They're in the business of trying to build their portfolio. So for them to reposition one single large asset may not be the smartest strategy. In other words, they want to maximize the amount of capital that's working for them. So instead, let's leverage income. So in this example, we're going to take an installment, if you will, or an annual premium payment of $14,243 each year for 10 years. It's a 10-pay strategy. Think of that money as extra income at the end of the year that can be applied to an investment, like a dollar cost averaging strategy. But you'll note at the bottom, kind of as you move down, you'll see 5% compound as I highlight that. Who ever thought of using 5% compound? We've all been conditioned over the years that it's too expensive. Nobody ever wants to buy it because it doesn't look real good up front. But if your goal is to build financial firepower, you can't beat this. The good news is I have a 3% option that will show you what I'm talking about. So with that, we're going to take a look at some numbers. And this is the Beyond Self-Funding tool that we have available to you. So as you'll see up top, I've got this 55-year-old client. Now they happen to be in the 28% tax bracket, right? I have the ability with this tool, and Katie does as well. She has access to this tool to apply whatever tax bracket you want. You notice we have age 83. That happens to be our average claim age. And what we're going to do is compare and contrast the outcomes and consequences of somebody who decides to self-fund versus taking the same money and applying it to an asset-based solution, and in this case, MoneyGuard. So you'll see there's your $14,243 right there. And you'll notice the number 10 underneath it that I just highlighted. That means that this individual who says they're going to self-fund is going to dollar cost average, if you will, or annually fund an investment with the intent that that is their financial plan. And in this case, there's really only two avenues that an individual can choose. A real safe avenue, which you run the risk of not creating enough growth over time and certainly can't outrun inflation, or taking risk in the market. So in this case, you'll notice 1.5% and 6%. That 1.5%, that's your bird in the hand kind of investment. It could be a CD. That's an after-tax rate of return. So it could be a CD. It certainly could be a treasury right now, right? It could be a CD, it could be a bond fund, you name it. It's a safe investment. The money's always going to be there, whether the market's up or down, but you're going to get a relatively low after-tax rate of return. So frankly, to create enough growth, to create enough firepower, at least in theory, you'd have to bypass that strategy for somebody this young and look at the market. And in the market, we're looking on a good day, an after-tax rate of return on average of 6% over time, all right? So what we're gonna do now is compare the outcomes by age 83 to if I took that same $14,243 and paid installments, if you will, over a 10-year period into MoneyGuard, which we're looking at a 5-year plan that's going to grow at a guaranteed rate of 5% compound. And the question is, what does that look like? Well, when I take you to the next slide, you'll see the image. This shows the outcomes by age 83. That great big green bar shows you the purchasing power you've created with the insurance strategy. Again, you can't outrun leverage. You just can't outperform it, especially when the proceeds from that leverage at claims time are tax-free. They're not considered taxable income. You'll notice in the blue bar, didn't get too far, right? That's the bird in the hand investment. And even taking risk in the market to maximize my growth, still taking that risk didn't get me close to what the insurance solution would have provided for me. Now, kind of where the rubber meets the road is right here. You'll notice you'll see the 1.5% rate of return and the 6% rate of return. If I played it safe and went with that bird in the hand investment, it may sound crazy, but this person would have left over $856,000 on the table in terms of missed opportunity costs, or another way to put it, purchasing power to create for his or her long-term care fund, in this case, his fund. That's a huge trade-off. Even taking risk in the market compared to the insurance solution, this gentleman would have left over $652,000 on the table. That's a lot of money. And when we look at the graphic, this kind of gives you some perspective. In year one, age 55, making my first premium payment, in this case into MoneyGuard, day one already gets me 200 or 265,000 tax free. And if this individual happens to pass away that year, the death benefit of 104,000. And notice that death benefit grows because we're making premium installments along the way. But not to be morbid, but if that individual did die that year, that's a 251% rate of return on investment. Meanwhile, year one, we're just starting our self-funding strategy. So if this individual happened to have a long-term care event unfold in year one, the self-funding strategy would have been nothing but disastrous. They would have had to deconstruct the portfolio. But taking you down to year 29 at age 83, that's our average claim age, this individual has made in aggregate premium payments a little over $142,000, right, over 10 years. But look at this. He created over $1 million tax-free to fund his long-term care. So that's a pretty darn good trade-off. You know, up front, the sticker shock of 5% compound doesn't look pretty, but when you look at it over time, you can't beat that. Meanwhile, look at the death benefit. The death benefit pretty much comes close to matching what the premium investment was for this strategy. So if this individual happened to die in year 29 at age 83, he's going to collect 142,000 in the form of death benefits that go back to the heirs. They've recaptured the investment that they made. That's like getting a 7.7% rate of return, as we see right there, on a tax-free investment. Coming over to the far right side, I'll just focus on the market rate of return. Dollar cost averaging into the market at a rate of $14,243 a year didn't get you nearly as far. And when we talk about taking risk in the market, I don't want to minimize that key word, taking risk in the market. I think this pandemic speaks volumes of what risk is all about. In fact, I've had numerous conversations with advisors who said, who would have ever thought of factoring pandemic into the risk management discussion? We just witnessed the federal government and state governments shutting their economies down overnight. Who would have thought, right? How would that have unfolded for somebody who's either using their portfolio and the growth in their portfolio to pay for long-term care, or who just all of a sudden started putting money in the market for that? So bottom line is this: there are consequences and trade-offs to every decision we make. Don't argue with your clients and say they're wrong. In fact, those clients who are certainly in the position to self-fund can do that. The question is, do they understand the investment consequences that they would face by foregoing the insurance option? That's the end. And the way you want to pivot from that is, I'm not going to argue with you about what's right or wrong here, but I want to illustrate for you the consequences and trade-offs of making that decision over leveraging insurance and making a different decision. And I'll show you how that's all about. The good news is Katie and her team have access to these tools, and this concept can be applied to whatever long-term care insurance solution you're looking at. And Katie, that's pretty much what I came to talk about this morning.
Thanks, Larry. I'm looking through here. If anyone has any questions, here we go. Here, they're starting. Please type them in. Bear with me here. How are you taxing the investment option is one question.
How are we taxing the investment options? All that we're putting in, as you go back to the original assumptions page, is that we're putting in here a combined income tax bracket approach. So this person is in the 28% income tax bracket, and that's how we would be taxing illustrating the taxation of the investment growth, rate of return.
Perfect. I am looking to see if there's any other questions. Larry, you did such a good job. I think you handled them. Here we go. Question if we can get a copy of the recording. Absolutely. I will be sending out a copy of the recording along with this presentation. You're getting great accolades here, Larry. It just says, fantastic webinar. They really appreciate it. Also, I'm getting some questions on running some illustrations. I would be more than happy to do that. I would like you to do is just, I'm going to send out an email regarding everything. Just respond to it. I will also add the pre-qualification form in order to do that. That would allow me to look at the underwriting. First things first is when it comes to these solutions, the last thing we want to do is send any of you out there if we're going to run into some health conditions. So that is going to be what I want to make sure that we are not running into. So I'm just digging here. Jan, I see your number and I will definitely give you a call. Larry, I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate it. As I think the field is sending in messages, and I think you should know, I mean, everybody's thrilled about how this went. I think it's important for people to understand the objections we run into long-term care. There are so many ways that we can handle things, and I think that this tool is just an excellent solution that you guys have brought to us, and we really appreciate it. So, again, I want to thank everyone for attending. I hope this was helpful. I hope you give us a call, and we can help you design or look at some maybe prospecting for your clients. Larry, again, we thank you. And to everyone, I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Great, Katie. Thank you for having us on. This was fun.
Thanks so much, guys. Everyone take care. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.